Hi everyone, so in this video I want to show you how you can blend watercolors. I'm going to use this Saunders Waterford rough watercolor paper, 140 pounds, and these colors: indigo, marine blue, quinacridone red, yellow ochre, and leaf green. So the first square we're going to do wet on wet. What it means is that I am going to pre-wet this square section with water, and then I am going to add paint. So here's my water, and I'm going to grab round brush 8, and now I'm just going to wet this square, everything inside, the entire square. So we're going to do this blending of two colors, wet on wet. Okay, the square is pretty wet. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to dip my brush in water, and I'm going to grab a little bit of marine blue. So my marine blue is going to be from the left. I want a little more paint, and I am just applying paint to the wet surface because I pre-wetted this paper. Now if you want your paint, the color, to be more vibrant, you can just add more paint. This is marine blue, so I'm just going to grab paint with my brush, and my brush is already wet, so I'm just going to add it here on this side so it's more concentrated. Now this is all wet, so I'm going to rinse my brush, and now with this wet brush I'm going to grab a little bit of leaf green, and I'm also going to start from the edge, so this side first. So these colors will naturally start blending because the paper is wet, but I can help this to happen. I can just start going towards the blue, and as you can see, the colors are already blending on the paper. Now to control this blend, to make sure it's all nice and smooth, you can rinse your brush, wipe it on a towel, let's say, and then you can go again with a cleaner brush and go from this side to make sure it's all nice and smooth. The same thing we can do with the blue side. So my brush has been rinsed in water, I wiped it on a towel, and now I'm going just from the side of the marine blue. And now I need to rinse it again to make sure I don't lose my leaf green, too much of it. So that's how we're blending on this side. I can also add more paint on the right side, so more leaf green. So I'm grabbing more leaf green with a wet brush, and I'm just going to go from this side, just so I have more concentrated paint, so it's more rich. And because the paper is still wet, the colors are blending, and there's no hard edges. It just blends nice and smooth. You can continue doing this while the paper is still wet. Now for this piece, this is going to be our wet on dry. What it means is that we're not going to pre-wet this paper. We're just going to paint straight on a dry paper. So we're going to dilute our paint with water, and then we're just going to start painting right away. This time I'm going to first use quinacridone red. So I'm dipping my brush in water, and I'm grabbing a little bit of quinacridone red. I'm diluting it with water at the same time. Okay, that's plenty. And now I'm going to start from this side. So from the left side, and this is quinacridone red. Now when you paint wet on dry, you do have more control over your watercolors and paper versus when you paint wet on wet. The paint just spreads. You can still control it in a way. It depends how much water you have and how much water is on your brush, but it's much easier to control everything when the paper is dry. Now this part is a little more concentrated here, so now I'm going to dip my brush in water and dilute a little more this quinacridone red, and somewhere in the middle, this is where my colors will meet together. Okay, that's pretty good. Now I'm going to dip my brush in water, wipe it on a towel, and now I'm going to go for yellow ochre, and I'm also going to dilute it pretty well with water, and I'm going to start from this side, from the right side. I have to do this pretty quick before my pink dries, so the colors blend nicely together. So I will finish this side later. I want to catch quinacridone red right before it dries, because that's the only way these colors can blend together. So as you can see, I'm just moving towards quinacridone red and let these two just blend together. Now I want to make sure this looks nice and smooth, so I'm just going to grab a little more of quinacridone red. And now I'm going to use a little less water. I want the paint to be more concentrated. So I'm also mixing these two as the paper is still wet. And here I don't want this to dry before I start until I finish filling the whole square. And I want to rinse my brush to make sure this is all just yellow ochre, so it's not mixed here yet or at all. I want only the middle section to be mixed, blended. And now, since this side is good, I can start going with my strokes towards quin red again. And this is our wet on dry blending. Now our third section is also going to be wet on wet, but this time here I am going to add a third color. So first I'm going to wet the entire square with water. And I'm gonna go again for the marine blue. So here's my marine blue. I'm dipping my brush in water and I'm going to dilute some of this paint. And I'm going to start from the left side again. This time I have a little more paint than, I guess there's more paint than before. Okay, that's plenty. And now I'm going to grab leaf green and start from the right side. And let these two blend together. I'm going to add a little more leaf green. dilute it first with water. And now, as marine blue is still wet, I'm going to add a little bit of indigo from the left side. And this is our third color. I want the marine blue to be a little more visible, so I'm just going to add more in the middle. And I need a little more. And now with the dryer brush, I'm going to go in the middle section and just spread the paint. So now this is also wet on wet, but it's 3 colors blended together. Now there is a third way that you can also blend colors together. So we are going to pre-wet this square again. That's a round 8. Wetting the entire square. And it's just water. Just making sure it's all covered. And now I'm going to dip my brush in water. And I'm going to go for the quinacridone red, dilute it with water. And I'm just gonna drip some here. I might have to get more. I might have to add more. So let me make sure there's enough water for what I want to show you. So quin red, let's add a little more here. I need more paint to show you this. Okay, that's perfect. And now I'm going to do the same thing with yellow oak, dilute it with water, and move it over here, filling this square. There's a lot of water because this is a little different technique to mix the colors together, to blend them. Okay. Now I'm gonna put my brush away and I'm gonna grab the entire block and I'm just going to move the paper around. So I am letting the paint blend on its own while I am moving it around. Until you're happy with what you see, basically. But the paint will also start settling. And if you want to add more paint, you can add more quinacridone red, or you can add more yellow oak. But basically, this is a nice way to make it nice and smooth as well. I keep moving it until it stops moving. Okay,